to another edition of Sinai Stories. I'm Lorne Rubenstein, and I'm here with Mitchell Shnier, who's had quite a bit to do with various elements of the synagogue and the infrastructure that are required to keep it going. Mitchell, perhaps you can tell us some of what you do.
Very good. So I've been a member, our family's been a member since 1964, and I think it was similar to Lance's story where, bar mitzvah, wedding, stuff like that happened at Temple Sinai. But as far as getting more involved with volunteering at Temple, for me, the first thing happened about 16 years ago where I was in the chapel and I noticed the eternal light wasn't on, which I thought, well, that can't be. So I asked about it, and it turned out that the facility manager knew, but didn't know what to do with it. It was a custom designed thing with a very fancy circuit board hiding in there that made the light flicker, and it broke. So what do? You can't buy spare parts for it. But I'm an electrical engineer, and I picked around and figured out what was wrong and fixed it. And so I sort of started to realize that, well, it's a building like anything else, and you need to keep it going. And a couple years later, I was at my niece's bat mitzvah in the main sanctuary, and I happened to be sitting in the very front corner seat of the main sanctuary, which it turns out was the worst place to be for the sound system. The speaker used to be right front and center, aiming back, and I couldn't hear her Devar Torah. And like, that's the time when the bat mitzvah girl gets to show her stuff and her thinking and who she is, and I couldn't hear it. And I complained, and I got on a committee. And that was the beginning of a lot more involvement with Temple, in that case, eventually with the replacement of the sound system, which was quite old and had a lot of new requirements, and it took a long time to sort out what to do and what the requirements are. And I've since been very involved with the sound system as well.
Did Temple not have people on hand or people that they had hired on a regular basis to take care of all of these issues?
Some of it is just the system was too old. For example, they only had one microphone on each lectern, and often you have two people. You'll see the rabbi often when there's a bar mitzvah boy there, the rabbi will be off to the side, and you need more than one microphone. Or at high holidays, they used to always put the microphone on the ark, and it was a huge responsibility of whoever was running sound to turn down the volume on that microphone as the ark doors were open. Otherwise, this most horrific sound would come out of the speaker. So there was just things wrong with the sound system. It didn't have the flexibility for what it needed. It needed to be replaced. And that was a big project. And no, Temple doesn't have anybody on staff that knows technology and sound system. And as we've seen, here we are using Zoom for religious purposes. More technology is required in the operation of all religious facilities. And it's a new skill, and they don't have anybody that does that. So I end up getting involved with a lot of the technical aspects of Temple now.
You got involved, I understand it was about 15 years ago. To what extent have you been able to sort of retrofit what is there to bring it up to date? And to what extent are you having to basically replace entire systems?
Well, the sound system was a particular big project that happened about 6 years ago. And their budget became available for it. So the sound system and all in the main sanctuary, the social hall, and both the green halls was completely replaced. There was basically nothing that could be reused in it. It was ancient. The stuff that was put in, they had like speakers in the ceiling that were never used. It was a public address system. It wasn't a sound system for music, and they just weren't being used. And I have something here I could show you on the sound system that we ended up with, which I could show some drawings of what we ended up doing. And this is the drawing that I've done of what we ended up installing. As you see, there's a lot to it. And this is just the audio paths. This is the boxes and what they do audio. There's another diagram for the sound system. This is just the Ethernet connections, the network that controls the sound system, nothing to do with the audio. And it's a complicated system. It is beautifully flexible. We've had it for 6 years now, as we've had to have new requirements as people are doing video, both projection within the halls as well as video for Zoom. It's had the flexibility to meet the needs. So I'm really, really happy with it. But it's complicated. And every time something has to change, or every high holidays, when you end up with a new technician that's going to be running the sound system, I'm the one that sets it up for them and explains it, because it's a sound system they usually haven't seen before, and they need some training on it. So it's an ongoing thing that I do for the sound system.
I'm assuming you're in the synagogue then quite a bit, not only for services and for programs, but to make sure that things are running as smoothly as possible.
It is. I am there with my tool bag, working with Ben every single week. And the kinds of projects I've been involved in is in 2010, it turns out that the air conditioning system for the main sanctuary in the social hall, it was literally 50 years old. It had to be replaced, and it was a rush because it had to be done in time for high holidays. So that was a huge project, and there's special requirements. For example, anybody that's going to put in a big air conditioning system now, heating and air conditioning, they would just plunk what they call a packaged system on the roof. And that's fine for an office building. But at Temple, for the services, at one point you have like the silent prayer, and it's got to be quiet, and you don't want to hear the hum of machinery, of fans. In an office, that's fine. There's a background din that goes on all the time, but I knew that that wouldn't work for Temple. So it really helps to understand how the building is used in order to make sure that what they put in, and I did drive them crazy. They had to do some things they don't usually do, but that was a big project. Another one that happened after that was upgrading all the security cameras in the building. Security is an ongoing huge issue, and in 2011 there was some government funding that was available, the security infrastructure program, and it was a huge project to, like, there's the number of reports they needed, the application process, the design, the planning that had to happen. So that was a big project for the security. The accessibility elevator that happened also in 2011 at the same time as the sound project was a huge project. Not only is it for accessibility reasons that the elevator is needed, but anybody that has a stroller needs it. They take catering carts, they take audiovisual equipment up and down between all the different floors. So that was a huge project because it's a 50, 60-year-old building, and taking out a 12-foot column down the very center of the building, even deciding where would the elevator shaft go, because there's all kinds of, there's the heating, and there's the power, there's the plumbing, there's the sewage lines, there's all the security system, and you had to work around all that as well as all the infrastructure of it. So deciding where that could go was a big deal. There's an archives room at Temple. Most people don't know that Temple has an archives room, and unfortunately it's in the lowest level. And I had been very concerned, what if there's a flood? You would lose all these documents. And so what I did is I got shelving. I realized it was a need, and it was too difficult even to get Temple to reimburse me for it. I went to Costco and got the shelves and assembled them and put them in. And in fact, when we did have a flood subsequently, everything was above the water level. So there was an LED lighting replacement. All the ceiling lights in the 4 main halls were 150-watt incandescent bulbs, and replacing those was a big project. It's easier now. You go to Home Depot, there's LED bulbs all over the place. But making sure that the spread of the light was that you would have even lighting, that it was an acceptable color of light that is bright enough to replace it, was a big deal. So you have to get some bulbs and test out different designs and patterns. And so when we put it in, it was perfect. Nobody complained. Nobody noticed. That's what you want. Their Temple did have some problems with flooding twice, 2 big floods a couple of years ago, trying to trace the roof drains, where they go, trying to figure out where the floor drains are was a huge deal. And so that's like infrastructure kind of stuff that happens. There was the memorial boards. You see the ArtSite boards on the walls. Well, you can't get those light bulbs. It's pretty popular, guy. You can't get those light bulbs anymore. So figuring out where to get the replacement light bulbs is a big deal. The parking lot, the lighting in the parking lot. stopped working a couple of years ago, and the electrician couldn't figure out where the cables are, what was broken. So I was able to trace that and figure out where the cables are and where the part that's broken is. The menorah light outside the west parking lot door. Somebody really wants to talk to me.
Your ingenuity has obviously been tested here, and you know, you're kind of a consummate problem solver here. And the problems aren't going to stop, Mitchell. They're going to keep going, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, it's ongoing. There's the extension cords need repair, the sound system components need repair, the piano in the chapel, the boardroom speaker phone, the wireless microphones. I'm in repairing all these things myself. There's the green halls and the current kitchen renovation. Well, so they do the big stuff, but all the low voltage stuff isn't taken care of. What happens with the new burglar alarm contacts, the motion detectors, the security cameras you need, the audio, the data? People need Ethernet, Wi-Fi coverage everywhere, and all these things is what I did. These are the drawings and the designs. That there's a very fancy lighting system in the green halls now. The selection of that, the program and configuration of it. The library needed better ventilation. I worked out a plan for that. The west parking lot doors were replaced recently, so the requirements for that was tricky. Temple's telephone bill, there were ways to reduce costs on that. If you look outside the building, there's some very attractive decorative tiles that are on the walls, and some of them broke, and you can't get those tiles anymore. So how do you replace that, making it look nice when you can't get the tiles? So I worked out a way of doing that. There were problems with Temple's Ethernet. As that becomes more important, there's a constant stream of interesting projects at Temple that I've been helping them with.
I'm sure. Well, I think I can say with confidence that all members are grateful to you, because we come into the synagogue and things seem to be running okay and smoothly. And now we have a better and a deeper understanding of what's really involved in the infrastructure. So thank you for your contribution. It's so important, and I appreciate you joining us today. Thank you, Mitchell.
Thank you. I enjoy working with everybody. Thank you, Lorne.
Good. All the best. Take care.